been in the tech ecosystem here in like Toronto, Canada for the last 12, 13 years now. Started off my career as a software engineer, so like tech nerd through and through. Also kind of like Batman, secretly been working in the CPG scene, mostly in a family business. When my parents immigrated in Little India in Toronto,
They actually opened up like one of the first Indian grocery businesses.
that's kind of like the other half of my brain. Live and breathe tech, software, building products from the ground up, but also love food products, scaling up businesses more operationally. Originally, Moselle was this idea of how do we get capital in the hands of CPG businesses so they can buy more inventory and scale. We just found that brands were making horrible buying decisions as like one of the reasons that could limit their growth. So we got into like helping them with their demand plan and forecasting, and then we pivoted into what Moselle is today. This is like the view that operators get super excited for. So like right now I can easily predict and say we have 6 months of inventory on hand, and I can very easily see like how much we're stocking out well into like 2026. And this becomes like your Bible.
Hey, Lakhveer, appreciate you coming on to the Warehouse Pod. Welcome. I guess just first and foremost, I'd just love to know a bit more about like who you are and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on the pod, James. I'm super excited to be here. But very quickly, name's Lakhveer, founder and CEO of Moselle. Been in the tech ecosystem here in like Toronto, Canada for the last like, I would say like 12, 13 years now. Started off my career as a software engineer, so like tech nerd through and through, but also kind of like secretly, kind of like Batman, been working in the CPG scene, mostly in a family business.
So you mentioned like your parents immigrated from India to Canada. They actually opened up like one of the first Indian grocery businesses. How did it impact you? And like, what were some of the lessons you learned from just being in that retail CPG world so young?
I just vividly remember like some of the lessons of like, you know, we made some bets on certain products that they were going to sell well here in North America that didn't pan out so well. So like it's a food product, it goes bad, take it to a dump and then throw it off a truck. And then also like, you know, selling out and having customers go to your competitors and kind of feeling that pain point as well. So saw those ups and downs as in that family business.
What were the pain points that you were seeing that made you want to build Moselle?
Yeah, kind of like fell backwards into the forecasting and planning side of things. So originally, Moselle was this idea of how do we get capital in the hands of CPG businesses so they can buy more inventory and scale. Inventory takes up probably the biggest balance sheet item for any like consumer business. And so, you know, how do we get them the capital so they can purchase more and sell more? That was just like the start of it. The genesis of Moselle was really this idea of like how do we get capital in the hands of businesses so they can scale. Inventory is like the biggest balance sheet item for a business and like the most like.
Okay, so this is kind of a weird question, but say I don't have 250 bucks, I'm just starting out and I place my first PO, or I placed my second or third PO, but I'm just starting out, I don't have 250 bucks to start Moselle. What can I do? Like, give me the basics 101 of, demand planning and forecasting so that I'm not making big mistakes and screwing up my business. And is this something like, I guess if you could just like share your screen, pull up a spreadsheet and just give me the 101 of like, what's the most basic thing that I can do as a founder to make sure that I'm like covering my bases and I'm like following quote unquote best practices,
Yeah.
Is this possible?
Yeah, it's possible, but you're putting me on the spot here. So let me see what I can do here, and won't use like AI here. But
Yeah.
let's just assume we have like a SKU. Let's just call it like, I don't know, SKU 1, and like the easiest thing to do is like go into like Shopify and like download like the sales per day over the last like 30, 60, and like 90 days. So like 30, 60, 90 days, and then figure out how much you're like buying, selling per day. So like in the last 30 days, we sell like 1 per day. In the last 60 days, we sold, half a unit a day, and then we sold like 0.25. So already this will just tell you like, okay, from 90, if I look at 90 days versus 30 days, our velocity here, and I'll just like do velocity is like velocity is increasing um,
Mm-hmm.
significantly. And let's just use like, maybe the like average here, average, and we'll just go like this. Okay, so we're like selling 0.583, but I would just like update these constantly, and it will just like give us
Mm-hmm.
like an average like
Would
point
you
0.5.
update this like on a weekly basis or
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I would like
yeah.
weekly
Okay.
basis, like just get a fresh number, rolling average, and kind of like you can even graph it out so you can kind of see. And then this is just for one SKU, and you would just do it with like all your SKUs. But let's
Yeah.
just say like now you have like inventory, and then like at warehouse one, you have like 100 units.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like current inventory. So this is like inventory
Yeah.
today. And then
Yeah.
you would just update this number every single day. And then
Mm-hmm.
basically all you would do is take this number, divide it by this number, and it gives you, okay, this is my days on hand or DOH. And so I have
Mm-hmm.
171 days on hand. And just for this SKU, I'd put like transit lead time. So how long does it take? And
Mm-hmm.
then production lead time. And then
Mm-hmm.
let's just say it takes like 30 days, and then like let's just say another like 30 days, and so that's like total 60 here.
Mm-hmm.
Then this will just, I would like color code this, that if this number gets close to this number, you need to really reorder. And just being able
Mm-hmm.
to like update these numbers, you can do it on another spreadsheet, copy paste it, and then just have updated velocity numbers and this like new updated days on hand is like the back of the napkin gut check sort of way to come up with like when you need to reorder and like make sure you don't drop the ball on any SKU. And you can even like mess around with this and just say, okay, maybe in the next 30 days from last year, around November, we actually went up to 2 units per day. You can just like play around with that number now. You can kind of see how much units days on hand you have based off of that. So this is getting pretty close. So I need to cut an order as soon as possible.
Mm. Okay, this is super cool. So this is something that someone can literally build in like 10 minutes in spreadsheets,
Yeah.
and it would just give them like a basic guideline on how to approach this. So then when it comes to like days on hand, like you're saying, okay, we should probably order when it gets close to like, I don't know, 70 to 80 days on hand. What's like a good margin of safety that you recommend for people?
Yeah. So that's an entirely different like calculation, and that you can kind of look it up. It's called safety stock. So
Mm-hmm.
safety stock, what I would recommend is like have an additional like 60 days of stock. So let's just say you're buying inventory now. You're gonna buy for X amount, like add a bit of buffer, maybe like another 60 days or like 90 days worth of, or
Mm-hmm.
sorry, 2 months worth of stock to
Yeah.
protect you just in case you forget to reorder, that there's uh like padding there. Now, this safety stock is also very dependent on like your cash situation. So obviously you
Yeah.
can't just maybe buy 2 months of inventory because like you don't have the cash, and like
Yeah.
you would just pick the highest number that you can get away with from a cash perspective.
What is like a good margin of error or like padding that I should have for days on hand inventory?
Yeah, it really comes down to like your preferred safety stock value. If it takes like 30 days in this example here to like transit and produce, that's 60 days. But then like, you know, the Suez Canal gets blocked, or like the factory is not, gonna hit the deadline. So it's just kind of best to practice to go like overall lead time, even add a little bit of buffer. So you could be doing like 90 days here in this case, and like the safety stock should like maybe be like 90 days. And then, but it's ultimately up to the business and like the founder if they even have the cash. I would, like, it goes back to that rule, like 80% of your sales come from like 20% of your SKUs. So maybe it's like important to have really high safety stock values for your hero SKUs, so you never stock out of those, but everything else you can like kind of pull the lever and kind of mess around with different safety stock values for kind of things further down in the product catalog.
So this is like kind of 101, and then when I am placing my order, um how am I deciding how much to place? I guess it depends on the cash I have in hand. Obviously that's huge, but like how would you go about just like thinking about that?
Yeah, it's really now like thinking forward. Like, do you think the velocities of these products will stay the same, or like are they going to
Mm,
increase? And so, like, this gauge will tell you that, like, okay, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, like everything's like speeding up. So maybe I should like increase this, like, instead of, I'm selling 0.58 per day, I'm going to start selling 2 per day, which then kind of gives you like, okay, if I'm doing 2 days, 2 units per day, and then you like multiply that out with like the next 6 months, it gives you a number of like, okay, let's just do that. Like 2 units times, let's just say 2 units times, whoops, 2 units times, I'll do it over here. Whoops, just do like purchase plan. Purchase plan. And I'll say I'm going to take how many units I think I'm going to sell, times the next 90 days. I need at least
mm-hmm.
180 days plus another 90 days worth of safety stock, so that it could be another 180 days, so like that gives you the number of units you should purchase. And this is all just like back the napkin math. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pitfalls with this, but this would be like a good like gut check. I just want to preface this that this I would not recommend buying this because you're really like guessing the velocity. But as long as
Yeah.
it's like tightly close, like this spread is like kind of like too wild. What we typically see with most brands is they sell 1.1 over the last 90 days and they sold 1 in the last 30 days, so like sales just slowed down just ever so slightly.
Uh-huh.
And this is insanely hard to do if there's not a lot of sales volume. That's the other pitfall
Yeah.
with this. Like if you sell like 1 unit per month, like this calculations are like wildly like drastic. So that's the other like pitfall with this. Doesn't work with like low volume, and it doesn't work well when like velocities are like all over the place.
I see. And if you go back to the purchase plan, in this case, you're looking at 90 days of kind of 90 is the default. Would you say that like the minimum should at least be like whatever your transit lead time and your production lead time is, like the minimum order should cover that timeline for you, because otherwise you're kind of just like understocking in a way. So
Yeah.
that's like the minimum. So that plus safety stock would be like a nice benchmark, but then obviously it depends on like it really depends on what you estimate your velocity to be,
Yeah, so
right?
the total lead time here, so like total lead time here is like 60 days, and we set our safety stock in our example here is 90 days. So it'd really be like this plus this safety stock value, and then it's like, okay, now I have to buy 300, and that covers me for my total lead time plus some safety stock, and that gives
Mm-hmm.
me 300 units. So when I'm
Mm.
buying, it's buying for the next order plus a couple months worth of safety stock. But again, you might want to dial this up, and it's also not accounting for like minimum order quantities with like a supplier who might like
Yeah.
minimum
Yeah.
wants you to buy 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. No, this is super helpful. I think like a lot of early founders, or even like, people who are into their journey will find this helpful because it just gives them the most basic framework. Anything you feel like I've missed here that you want to cover, or it's
Yeah,
fine.
no, it's one of the actual like key things that we show in the product as well, like units per
Mm-hmm.
day, lead time, days on hand, and like kind of surfacing up that information and computing it automatically. So it's not like the rule of thumb way here is not like something that I would like forbid. It's like it's actually a good gut wet check sort of way of doing it. And we show
Mm-hmm.
those same gut check values. So it's not like very seasoned operators or founders who are just starting out are like, oh, like this is the lo-fi way. No, we actually surface
Yeah.
this data up. So it's like
Yeah,
very
like the
critical.
fundamentals are the same. It
Yeah.
just gets complex with like multiple channels, multiple warehouses, multiple SKUs, and then also just more variables that gets added,
Yeah.
right? I remember when we chatted before, you said like Moselle is sort of like you can think of it as like Doctor Strange for your inventory. It can kind of just like predict the future and tell you all the possible timelines of what you can do. I really like that idea. Can you walk us through like how does a D2C founder, how does he actually use it on a day-to-day basis? Maybe you can like even share screen, walk us through like a demo or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So very quickly, I'll throw it up here. So this is a demo account here. And so I'm going to go back. So one of the things is brands need to create a forecast, and creating a
Mm-hmm.
forecast is very much like one of the hardest parts to do. And we make it very straightforward for a brand to just like get going with like creating a forecast. So we have like a guided workflow where you could say, hey, I'm going to create a forecast for the next 12 months. And where we help brands is like, hey, let's like use AI and the magic of AI, like buzzword. Everyone's using AI today, but
Yeah.
let's use AI. And if you're an operator, you would know what these mean. So I'm going to forecast bottoms up. So I'm going to forecast every single SKU by every single channel and kind of work upwards to like a gross number, or I can go top down. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to go top down, and I know I'm going to sell like maybe $2 million is what I've like kind of forecasted out for the end of the year, maybe 5 million because of, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then maybe like 1 million because it's a slower month in December. All you would hit is generate forecasts, and our AI does like all of the hard work to basically come up with what the unit forecast looks like for all your SKUs. Across all your different channels, and it's like all this work is kind of done auto magically for you. And our
Mm.
AI's name is Mo, and Mo kind of like did like something that like an operator would take them like a week or two to do manually themselves.
And so what is the logic or like the mechanics behind this forecast? Is it like, so say if I'm doing top down and I want a 2 mil per month, is it taking historical data on the split of sales by SKU and then it's kind of using that to plug it into it? Can you explain how it works?
Yeah, at a very simple level, that's what you would do in a spreadsheet model. But what the
Uh-huh.
magic of Moselle and what Mo is doing behind the scenes is it's going through not only looking at the historical splits, it's looking at like potentially like future marketing events and new product launches and products that are being phased out, and then account for all these different other variables to even provide even more of an accurate result across all the splits across all these SKUs.
How do you input like a future launch or like a marketing event? How do you like how do you input that data?
Yeah, so you can like tell Mo here and you can ask it, but like you can also like search for the individual product. You can adjust the forecast. You can set specific launch dates and phase outs. You can set product
Oh,
comparables. So there's like this would be the view if you wanted to get very specific, or you can go back and just say, hey, Mo, you know, apply this, marketing calendar. You can also upload sales or marketing calendar into here and then basically say it has high importance and it's for the D2C channel. And then it would basically,
hmm.
you could upload it in here and it gets accounted in the modeling.
I see. Okay, that's super interesting. Can you go back to like the individual product where you could put like a sales spike or all that? I thought that was really cool. Yeah, walk me through like um anything interesting in here. Like I thought the sales spike thing was really interesting because I can basically mark how essentially volatile a product is, right? Sometimes it just, some products are way more seasonal, some products are not. And then this would obviously adjust for the forecast, but walk me through, I guess, anything interesting on like the SKU level data.
Yeah, so this is SKU level or like the product line level. So there's a couple of key factors here that basically, any good demand planner would know kind of gets factored
Mm-hmm.
into a forecast. So the obvious ones are like launch and phase out dates. The sales spikes, the way that this works is like if we're anticipating when you tell AI to generate a forecast, it can create like a nominal forecast and like kind of a worst case and like a best case. And if you include the sales spikes in there and you say it's going to be very often, it could look at maybe historical data, not only across this product, but previous products and seeing like what spikes across other products look like, and then account for it as like the upper bound. And then we'll use more of the
I
upper
see.
bound number or like the best case number when we're anticipating these spikes. Especially when you upload a marketing calendar, this like sales spikes, like you'll see it really like take effect into the forecast. And then seasonality. If we anticipate like this product being like just a holiday, given like a holiday SKU, we can say it's very seasonal, and then we can
Mm.
like kind of weight the historical data a little bit differently. But just being very like specific here and like clear, like sales spikes and seasonality, we've like made it a slider. So it's like very intuitive for like a founder who's doing this on their own and be like, I have no idea what any of this means. give me a
Yeah.
slider. I can slide it up and down. And we've seen like great success with this, where a brand who has one like holiday SKU just like adjust seasonality sales spike, set a comparable product if it's a new product, and then off you go.
I guess forecasting, and then what other how else would a founder use this on like a day-to-day weekly basis?
Yeah, for sure. Just like going back here, let's just say you've want to make some quick like edits to this forecast. You can also say like to Mo, hey, for D2C channel, um, for this product, reduce demand by like 20%. And so like you can do some like quick, yes, you can like talk to Mo to basically do some like quick edits and changes and fixes across like the entire product. So you'll see that it just
Mm-hmm.
like reduced the number live. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can also do some cool stuff here where you can say, hey, how did you come up with this number? And then Mo will basically like try to explain how we got this number from a forecast perspective. So again, I love thinking in like the terms of a founder. Instead of sitting there scratching your head on a spreadsheet and like, how did we come up with these numbers? You have like an assistant here to really just like ask it quick questions and then get like straight
Mm-hmm.
answers on like what's happening with your forecast, and have kind of like a ChatGPT tool next to your forecast model and really get going. But basically after you've like locked in and like finalized your forecast, you can set this as like the master plan. And then you're just basically letting your team know like we're buying against this. We're like happy with this. It's an accurate forecast. And from like a reporting standpoint, like we create like a really like clean view of like what your inventory is now going to look like now until however far your forecast goes.
I see. This reminds me, like I used to work at L'Oreal, and then we would do demand and supply planning meetings every week, and it was just with SAP, and it was terrible, and it was extremely manual. And this looks like a million times better than what I used to deal with. Um,
Yeah, so this
this
is
is
like
like so modern.
yeah, this is like the view that operators get super excited for. So let's just assume you've like locked in that forecast. You have your starting inventory, how much you've like demand planned out for the rest of the year, and then you have like additions, so like open orders and then ending balance. So like right now I can easily predict and say we have 6 months of inventory on hand, and I can very
Hmm.
easily see like how much we're stocking out well into like 2026. And this becomes like your Bible, and being able to like quickly see, okay, for my entire body care line, I'm like good until December. And then like you can open up into individual SKUs or individual product lines. So deodorants is like pretty good until, oh no, we're stocked out in November. I need to put in an order ASAP. And this gets updated in real time. You don't have to lift a finger. This is just being computed for you like every day.
I see. That makes sense. No, this is super cool. Any other like dashboards or functions where it's like a day-to-day weekly check-in from the founder side?
Yeah, the founders are always like, hey, um, how is my forecast actually performing to actuals? We get that question a lot. So we have like a forecast performance report in here. And so very quickly a brand founder can like look at, okay, look, this is my May, this is what I projected, this is what I'm sold. Okay, DTC is like really off. Like what's up with that? And you can go into the individual product lines. Okay,
Mm,
skincare, we were like totally wrong with the forecast, and you can kind of like click through, and so you can like walk down deep into your forecast and understand why is it so off, and then go into the individual SKUs and start making adjustments.
at what point do you feel like a brand needs something like Moselle or even like a ERP? Because we kind of sit between spreadsheets and ERP, I guess, right? So at what point does it actually make sense to graduate from spreadsheets where spreadsheet no longer cuts it for you?
Yeah, I think it's like a bit of a myth of like I'm too early for this. Like the whole idea behind Moselle is like make it A, approachable, B, make it like simple and fast, and then finally like the best ROI decision that you've made as a founder. Like we have like a starting plan that like starts at $250 a month, which is like a dime in the bucket considering like how critical inventory is, not only to your balance
Hmm.
sheet, but to like your success in terms of growth and sales. And so you don't want to be the founder that goes, first year in your business, you come out of the gate and then you're like stocking out because
Yeah.
you did it on a spreadsheet model where you could get a lot of resources and help through a tool like Moselle.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we can scale up, and then we scale up all the way to, even $100 million business without needing an ERP. ERPs are really expensive, time consuming to set up. The
Hmm.
ROI is not very clear, apart from like maybe a bunch of your tools like QuickBooks and stuff get wrapped up. And we're definitely not an
Hmm.
ERP. We're purely an inventory planning tool. So we encourage brands in the earliest stages. Like if you're a founder listening to this and you're like, I'm only a year into my business, like reach out to us. We're happy to like help you with inventory planning 101. And then
Hmm.
if you're like an 8-figure brand, and we have a bunch of 8-figure brands on our platform who have buying teams and demand planners, like you want to be doing it in this tool and maybe offset the need of an ERP for another couple of years, because like this is the ROI that you're looking for in your ERP that you don't get,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Walk me through like how did you go about landing your first couple customers? I know you're working with like Aeropress and Numi. The like Aeropress is super well known and really like a leader in that category. But yeah, how did you go about like landing your first couple customers?
Yeah, I think like it's like the typical founder just like knocking on door, pounding the pavement, hoping someone would give a chance. Look, at the end of the day, like one piece of advice that I was given to me as a founder is like someone's gonna take a chance on you, and think as customers as investors. So if like there's a customer out there that's willing to take a bet on you, and I think the stakes are a little bit higher than an investor, because they're like, especially with like something like Moselle, where it's like we're
Yeah.
giving you the keys to the car and such a critical function of the business.
Yeah.
Like don't screw it up, but at the same time, like make our lives a lot better. And so we got very lucky where, we worked through investor networks, consumer founders that just like recommended us, and like that's like how we got our initial customers. I will say it was really painful to get the first two, but if we were so focused on driving value with them that they were like, these guys are like almost like full-time working for us. They're like,
Hmm.
hey, Lakhveer, like, should we like recommend you to other people? I'm like, yeah, totally. And so it became a word for like 2023 and 2024 was all like word of mouth. And
Yeah.
like we really love some of the early customers and design partners that we got to work with that like took a bet on us and like gave us such a big critical piece to their business.
What do you think is worse, overstocking or understocking?
Good question. Both are horribly bad. I think you have an opportunity with out of stock where you can get into like pre-orders and like maybe capture some of the money you would have lost if you went out of stock, but you're kind of screwed if you go overstock. And if you go to the extreme end of overstock, you could go bankrupt, where you just have inventory you just can't move, and all your money's locked there, and you like we've seen companies like lay off employees and shut down and go out of business because they were like extremely overstocked and pie in the sky numbers of like what they were going to do in terms of sales.
What's like a hot take that you have in regards to inventory planning?
Hot take is like a lot of people and consumer who are taking like doing the demand planning and inventory planning don't really know actually what they're doing. Um, Very good like planning folks and ops people are very hard and like to come by, and they're very far and few between, and companies that have them recognize them and hold on to them. But a lot of companies really really struggle operationally, to grow and scale, because inventory becomes like a limiting factor, and that's just because like they're not forecasting well, and they're not like planning for safety stock and days on hand. They don't even have a pulse on that number. And so we've seen like horror stories where like founders like, yeah, I'm gonna demand plan, and then they're like crazy numbers and they never actually hit, and like and
Mm.
overbuy inventory. And we've seen like ops people be like, can you tell our founder to like take this serious and like help us forecast and all this other stuff. And sometimes it's just like learning too, right, where we've had to like teach inventory 101 to like a business that's been around for like 5 years. So it's like
Mm.
we've seen everything, and it just surprises me of like how much like little education there is, in this segment of like something that's so critical to a business.
Between spreadsheets and ERPs, you know, if you could only pick one and kill the other, which one would you pick?
They kill the ERP. You don't need an ERP. You really don't. You can now with like tools and like even like ChatGPT and things you can plug into your sheet, you can get very, very far with a spreadsheet. And to be honest, an ERP is just a big glorified spreadsheet app that has a bunch of add-ons attached to it.
I don't ever miss using SAP ever. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. I think this is pretty much it. I appreciate you just like taking the time to hop on the pod. This is really like I learn a lot.